Athens in the 5th century BC was a beacon of democracy and intellectual thought. It was a society that prided itself on open discourse and the pursuit of knowledge, yet this very society condemned one of its most brilliant minds, Socrates, to death.
I'm accused of impiety and corrupting the youth, but I merely challenge Athenian norms and traditions.
His execution in 399 BC marked a turning point. It signaled a growing intolerance for dissent and a shift away from the very principles that had made Athens great. Socrates' death cast a long shadow. It left many questioning the true meaning of Athenian democracy. Was this the same city that had given birth to Pericles and the Parthenon? The condemnation of Socrates exposed a growing fragility within Athenian society. It hinted at a decline in intellectual curiosity and a fear of ideas that challenged the status quo. This event set the stage for a new era, one where cynicism and apathy would begin to take root. In the wake of Socrates' execution, a new figure emerged who embodied the growing sense of disillusionment, Diogenes of Sinope, the founder of Cynic philosophy.
I reject societal norms and material possessions. I live in a tub and advocate for a simple life, free from the constraints of societal expectations.
While Socrates questioned societal norms through dialogue, Diogenes lived in direct opposition to them. He saw Athenian society as corrupt and artificial, clinging to empty rituals and meaningless pursuits. His public acts of defiance, often outrageous and provocative, were a direct challenge to Athenian sensibilities. He would eat in the marketplace, urinate in public, and mock those in positions of power.
What is striking is not just my behavior, but the reaction it elicits.
Instead of being punished or ostracized, he was often met with amusement or even admiration. This tolerance, or perhaps indifference to Diogenes' antics, speaks volumes about the changing nature of Athenian society. It reveals a growing apathy towards societal norms and a willingness to accept, even celebrate, behavior that would have been unthinkable a generation earlier. The most famous anecdote about Diogenes perfectly encapsulates his philosophy and its reflection on his time. Alexander the Great, at the height of his power, visited Diogenes, who was basking in the sun. Intrigued by the philosopher's reputation, Alexander asked if there was anything he could do for him.
Is there anything I can do for you?
Yes, stand out of my sunlight.
This encounter, whether apocryphal or not, is rich in symbolism. It juxtaposes Alexander, the epitome of worldly ambition and power, with Diogenes, the embodiment of detachment and self-sufficiency. Alexander, despite conquering vast empires, is humbled by a man who possesses nothing but his own independence of thought. The story highlights the hollowness of material pursuits and the true nature of freedom, themes that resonated with a society grappling with its own decline. That Alexander, a ruler known for his ruthlessness, tolerated this public rebuke is telling. It suggests an awareness, perhaps even an admiration, for Diogenes' rejection of the very values Alexander himself embodied. Section 4. Cynicism's rise. A symptom of societal unraveling, the rise of cynicism, epitomized by Diogenes, was not merely a philosophical trend, it was a symptom of a deeper societal malaise. As Athens entered the 4th century BC, its political and military power waned. The Peloponnesian War had taken its toll, leaving the city-state weakened and vulnerable. The Athenian citizenry, once deeply invested in the political process, grew increasingly disillusioned. The values that had once defined Athenian greatness, such as civic duty, honor, and intellectual pursuit, seemed to be eroding. In this environment of decline, cynicism flourished. It provided a framework for understanding the absurdity of a world where traditional values no longer held sway. Cynics rejected the pursuit of wealth, fame, and power, seeing them as ultimately meaningless in the face of death and the indifference of the universe. Their philosophy, while seemingly pessimistic, was a rational response to the hypocrisy and corruption they witnessed around them. The popularity of cynicism during this period speaks volumes about the psychological state of Athenian society. It reflects a loss of faith in traditional institutions and a growing sense of despair about the future. Section 5. From Athens to Rome, Echoes of Societal Decline. The decline of Athens offers a cautionary tale, one that resonates throughout history. Centuries later, the Roman Empire, at the height of its power, would experience a similar trajectory. As Roman power and influence expanded, its moral compass seemed to falter. Corruption, decadence, and a loss of civic virtue became endemic. Like Athens, Rome saw the rise of cynicism and apathy among its citizenry. The Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on virtue and acceptance of fate, gained prominence during this period, mirroring the cynicism of a bygone era. The excesses of emperors like Caligula and Nero, coupled with the decline of traditional Roman values, signaled a society in decay. The fall of the Roman Empire, like that of Athens, was not solely due to external forces, but also to a weakening of its moral and social fabric. The parallels between Athens and Rome are striking. Both civilizations rose to prominence through their military prowess, intellectual achievements, and strong civic institutions. Yet both succumbed to internal decay, marked by moral decline, political corruption, and a loss of faith in their founding principles. Section 6. The Fragility of Freedom. Lessons from Fallen Empires. The stories of Athens and Rome serve as powerful reminders of the fragility of freedom and the importance of safeguarding the values upon which great societies are built. History is replete with examples of once great civilizations that crumbled from within, their decline hastened by a loss of civic virtue, moral decay, and the erosion of those very freedoms they once cherished. The rise of cynicism and apathy, while seemingly benign, can be early warning signs of a society teetering on the brink. When citizens lose faith in their institutions, when the pursuit of power and wealth overshadows the common good, and when intellectual curiosity gives way to dogma and indifference, then the foundations of a free society begin to crack. The lessons from Athens and Rome are not merely historical footnotes, they are timeless warnings for every generation. Preserving freedom requires constant vigilance, a commitment to civic engagement, and a willingness to challenge injustice and defend the values that underpin a just and equitable society. For in the words of the ancient Greek historian Thucydides, the secret to happiness is freedom, and the secret to freedom is courage. Let us heed the lessons of the past and find the courage to safeguard our freedoms for generations to come.